Adjunct Professor Moran, Microeconomics 112. Our last notes section on monopolies are going to discuss what happens if the government regulates a monopoly. We discussed how inefficient monopolies are compared to pure competition, both in not achieving either allocative efficiency or productive efficiency. So we're going to discuss regulation of monopolies. Basically, the government has two choices when they regulate a monopoly. They can do something called socially optimal, which is price equals marginal cost, allocative efficiency, or they can set price equal to average total cost, but not min, because the way these cost curves are, you won't get a minimum. And that is considered a fair return price, because price equals average total cost means there's no economic profit. All right. So price equals marginal cost, because that's approximating pure competition, is called socially optimal. So they're going to set a price where price equals marginal cost, and it's going to result in a lower price than the other options, an unregulated monopoly or a fair return price, and a higher quantity than an unregulated monopoly or a fair return regulated monopoly. But you're going to see that this is going to result in a loss for the firm, and the government can't compel a firm to sell at a loss in the long run, because they'll put them out of business. The fair return alternative, where the regulators set price equal to average total cost, is the most often one done by regulators of monopolies. It's going to result in a higher price and a lower quantity than the socially optimal one. But because price is equal to average total cost, it eliminates the economic profit. But remember, even when economic profit is zero, there's a normal profit. So that's the dilemma that monopolists face, and they'll have to choose fair return. So let's graph these scenarios and see what they look like. All right, first let's discuss what a natural monopoly looks like. A natural monopoly is, instead of having cost curves that look like this, which we've been drawing regularly for a regular monopoly, a natural monopoly, and then the average total cost curve may look like that. Natural monopolies have tremendous cost savings. Their quantity of output is corresponding to the quantity demanded in the market. So there's only going to be one provider. So when it makes sense economically to have only one provider, the government can exchange the right for that one firm to exist and be a monopoly in exchange for the monopoly surrendering its right to control its prices. So then the government regulates price. But these cost curves become much flatter. So it's traditional to draw a natural monopolist cost curves like this. This would be marginal cost. So instead of a sharp check, you're drawing this flat. And you draw it starting to come up. And you draw the average total cost curves coming over, but you don't actually draw them crossing like they do here. Average total and marginal cost. Because these curves are much flatter because of the cost savings associated with the industry. Like you only have one electric company, one giant enormous electric company, because it doesn't make sense to have two small ones at higher costs up here, for example. So then what you do is we draw in our inverted V. Okay, we'll draw an inverted V. And so we've got price equals demand, and here's our marginal revenue. An unregulated monopoly will produce where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Here it is, marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Quantity, unregulated, you go up to the price line, and come over, and here's the price, unregulated. Find average total cost at that quantity, come over, and here's the unregulated monopolist's economic profit. Okay. Now, if we want to do what's best for society, then you would have socially optimal. That's going to equal price equals marginal cost. Here's price, marginal cost, that's here. Go down. This is going to be quantity. We're going to call that PC for it because it's the equivalent of pure competition, price with marginal cost. Come over, and here's price regulated as a purely competitive firm. But notice that because of the extreme cost savings, average total cost has not crossed over marginal cost yet. And so at this point, you go up, and this firm you'll be compelling this firm to lose this much money on this many items. So when you come over here, this rectangle, average total cost U and price, average total cost pure competitor and price total cost, this rectangle would be the loss of a firm that was regulated under this condition. And so that would put the firm out of business in the long run. And so this can't be done. You know, they would sue the government. It's taking away that property without due process, basically. So, and this is unregulated. Okay, price equals marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Okay. Now we have what's called a fair return. And that's where price equals average total cost. Note this is not average total cost min because of the way the cost curves are. So here, if you find price equal to average total cost, that occurs here. Price on the demand line, average total cost. Go down. This is quantity, fair return. This is price, fair return. It's getting a little busy here, so price, fair return. Here is price equals average total cost. Notice that average total cost won't minimize until it crosses marginal cost, which will be way out here someplace. So this is not average total cost min. But by making the monopolist sell where its price line crosses its average total cost line, it eliminates the economic profit that it results from an unregulated monopoly and the economic loss that results from a socially optimal regulated monopoly. And so this is usually what's going to happen. But notice that the condition for a socially optimal amount results in more output at the lowest price compared to either unregulated or fair return. Unregulated has the highest price at the lowest quantity. Fair return has an in-between price higher than pure socially optimal but less than unregulated, and has a quantity below socially optimal but above unregulated. So that's the dilemma for the regulator. They'd like to choose this would be best for society, but this turns out to be the one that is viable because there's no economic profit. Okay, we're going to do some worksheets that demonstrate the concepts we've discussed concerning monopolist pricing in comparison to pure competition, regulated and unregulated monopolies, to wrap up our unit on monopoly.